I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. In fact, if you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you'd already know that the title of tonight's show is Second Thoughts. And this is a time now when it would be to your advantage to just re-examine something or have second thoughts about it. And that is because you want to make sure that your trust is well placed, or that you are respecting people who really have a sterling track record and deserve your trust. Because some of the planets have changed signs. And because of that, it would be better now to sort of have second thoughts about something or re-examine something, just because if there was a change in a situation, you would want to know that you had already reviewed the information about it even before there was the change, so that you could be sure you were looking at the real thing. Now, I know that sounds a little vague, but what I mean by having second thoughts is it doesn't mean that you're necessarily going to change your mind on something. It just means that you're going to review things in order to be really sure about them. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. But the reason why you may be thinking along those lines is because a major planet just changed signs. Remember, last week we had 3 retrograde planets. And when there are 3 or more retrograde planets, it's always a good time to go back and re-examine things and sort of look for little mistakes that can be made, because they're easier to find when planets are retrograde. So you could have been checking things out like that. But now there's only 2 retrograde planets, because one of them did go direct. And it was Uranus, the planet of sudden change, which is in Taurus. And it has been retrograde for a long time, but now it is direct in a fixed financial sign that rules investments. So we have to remember that this volatile planet of sudden surprising change, which rules Aquarius, the sign of the future, is in a financial sign, and so there is the possibility that there could be changing economic conditions very suddenly. So there's nothing wrong with having second thoughts about what you're doing with your money, or about what other people are doing with money right now. Now, there's nothing wrong with looking that over a lot more carefully, just in case there is some sudden change. And so the 2 remaining retrograde planets are Venus, which is still in Capricorn, and now we have a planet that has just changed into Capricorn. In fact, we have 2 planets that just changed into Capricorn. And so the reason you can have that second thoughts is because there is a greater emphasis on a practical reality, and particularly since Capricorn rules your 10th house of career and your public reputation in the community. And it rules rewards earned the hard way over a long period of time. All of that is really, there can be a focus on that by a lot of people throughout the world for different reasons. But the emphasis is really on, there's actually 4 planets in Capricorn right now, and they're all trining a 5th planet in an earth sign, that Uranus, which is now direct in Taurus. So let's take a look at what's happening in Capricorn, because that's going to affect all of us. And since Capricorn rules the 10th house of your career and your public reputation, the concentration or the focus can be on things that are sort of out there in the public eye. And that could be your reputation in your career. It can be the value of your investments. It can be the reputation of people who are leaders or spokesmen, or people who spend a lot of time trying to look good or trying to sound good. But that's the reason why we can be having second thoughts. The question is, okay, are they just good actors, or are they really for real? Well, this is a good time to ask that question, because Mars has now left Aquarius. It was there last week, but now it was joining Saturn, but now it has retrograded and it has come back into Capricorn, and it is at the fateful 29th degree of Capricorn. So it is at the end of Capricorn, but it's not alone. Pluto is there as well at 28 degrees. These two, Pluto is a planet of power and deep truth and generally management at a high level. And it is conjuncting this retrograde Mercury at the 29th degree of fate in Capricorn. Okay, so that's at the end of the sign. But what else is happening? Well, Venus is still retrograde in Capricorn. And so that can mean that a love can return, or it can be that you are having second thoughts about someone and you are asking yourself, well, are they really worth it? Are they just all show, or are they really somebody who deserves your deep respect and trust? Maybe they're a person high up in an organization, or maybe they're a whole corporation, or maybe they had a whole organization, even a worldwide organization. But are they worth your trust? Well, that Mercury is retrograde, and it's coming. It must involve people that are sort of at the top, because Mercury is conjuncting Pluto, and Pluto rules people at the top. So there's that going on. And then Venus, which is retrograde in Capricorn, means that some things that you have been working very hard for, such as your pension plan, or your retirement plan, or your investments, could be subject to change because Venus is retrograde. So this is a very good time for you to have second thoughts and to be asking yourself, am I placing my trust on the right people, or the right institutions, or the right organizations, or am I putting my money in the right spot? Those are good questions to ask. And also, it can mean that there can be a sort of a delay in love. Venus rules love. And what it means is that you either can really admire somebody older, or somebody who is quite busy doing what they're good at, and so they don't have time for anybody else. That could be a delay in love in a different way. But let's look at what's happening at the start of Capricorn. Ooh, another planet has just moved into Capricorn, and it is Mars. And Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So now, in Capricorn, the four planets are Mars, which is a malefic planet, but it's very energetic, even aggressive. Mars rules war, jealousy, envy, hate, aggression. And it is in a planet that rules big business and large government organizations. But it can't work the way it usually does. It has to sort of work with a more practical eye. It has to sort of look at the bottom line. Even if somebody wants to go to war, they know it's going to be expensive. And so they're looking at the bottom line. But Mars is exalted there, meaning that it can move in Capricorn in a more measured way, not in its general impulsive way, because Capricorn is such a slow sign. So these four planets in Capricorn are powerhouse planets as a combination of planets. And so it's okay for you. Both retrograde planets are only in Capricorn. So this is a good time to go back and have second thoughts about where are you in your career? What are your future plans for that? Are you happy with the company that you work for? Or are you happy with government policies? You can examine all these things. And the reason why you should be doing that is because there's a lot on the line. There really is. And that is because these 5 planets in the earth signs, the 4 in Capricorn, trining Uranus and Taurus, and they are all trining the sign of Virgo as well, which rules your health and your job. It means that there's a lot on the line for everybody right now. And the reason why you should be asking yourself, who deserves your trust or your confidence? Or is somebody just looking good, but then when you look at their track record, there's nothing to back them up. They haven't done anything. It isn't that they haven't made sure that they were seen in the right place or with the right people. Maybe they're real good at that. But what is their real record of achievement? That's what you should be looking at now in a very practical, sort of long-term way, because only the best-run companies or government agencies could possibly survive an economic downturn. And there might be one. Remember that Uranus and Taurus is now direct. And you can't count on it. It's volatile. So only the best-run companies or the most well-run government organizations could survive an economic downturn, or something like a world crisis brought on by war. They could survive. They deserve your trust and your allegiance. But only after you examine their track record and their reputation for stability and how they have advanced. Not do they look good, but what have they done? This is the right time to be looking your choices over very carefully. Because if there is some sort of war that breaks out, or there is an economic downturn, I don't think anybody wants to be on the losing side. So this is a very good time for you to examine what you really hold dear and see if what you're doing or where you've put your money or how you're planning your life coincides with people you can respect and trust. Because if the world gets a little more dangerous, you would want to know that. You would want to know who you could trust. And right now, all you have to do is look at the track record. So you really don't have to talk to too many people. You just have to look and see, okay, what are the accomplishments? What is the growth? How are things managed? Do people keep their word? Not how good they look, but how well they keep their word. How much they, or how hard they work to deserve your respect. And if you find people you can respect, I sincerely advise you to stick with them. Because it's for your own good, just as much as theirs. And this is equally true for relationships. Okay, so far I've been talking about business because those 4 planets are in Capricorn, and Capricorn is a business sign. But you can't really say, oh, I can live a frivolous, I can have frivolous relationships, that's okay. No, it isn't okay anymore. And the reason why it isn't okay is because the world is changing. And if we don't respond to the changes around us, and if we don't select to live up to the best that we admire and respect, then we're choosing to be second rate. And that probably is not a good place to be in a world that could turn into turmoil. And so all of us have to raise our sights a little bit, and that means America too. It's throughout America. We cannot give up our high standards, the standards that built this country. What makes America is this idea that we can all be free, but we're free to unite and to get along. And it might not be that I like what you're doing and you might not like what I'm doing, but the idea that we're both free to do it, that idea is worth upholding and being faithful to, because it assures each of our existence. Freedom means you can stay alive, but you do it by uniting according to what your standards are. And the country has high standards. They saw to that a long time ago. When they were making that Constitution, they were real serious about that. And as long as we keep our high standards, we're going to do fine, no matter what comes at us. And so that simply means that wherever you are and whatever you're doing, either in your relationships or in your career or in your choices, any kind of choices that you make, are you doing something that is either second-rate or experimental, or are you doing something that you really believe in and that you trust? And are you putting your trust in other people with good track records that have proof of their efforts and deserve your respect? Well, let's hope you're doing that. But this is the time for second thoughts if you're not. Because only the people you can really trust, and that would be yourself as well, can withstand an economic downturn somehow, or some sort of war emerging somewhere that could affect us. So this is a good time to think about it. And that retrograde Mercury that has just come into Capricorn can help you with that, because it's at the critical 29th degree of fate and Pluto is conjuncting it. So a lot of people are going to have their mind on top leadership, or people who've been around for a while and have a long track record. And there's nothing wrong with seeing if they measure up. And you can also look at companies that way. Not just companies that made money, but how did they grow? How did they sustain other downturns? How did that affect them? And how do they keep going? You should, before you put your money in anything, you ought to know that. Because if you give them your money, you don't want it to go through a downturn. And so you have to be more selective, is all I'm saying. So the reason that I'm talking about this is because this influence is wider than it looks. And the reason why it's wider than it looks, because so far I've been talking about business, haven't I? Or government, or concrete results you can measure, practical things. But those 4 planets in Capricorn, they are sextiling a nebulous planet, but a powerful one, Neptune, which is at home in Pisces in the sign it rules, and Jupiter is there as well. So they're sextiling 2 great planets, and those 2 great planets are trining the moon in Scorpio today. Remember Scorpio's rulers, Mars and Pluto. Well, Mars is exalted in Capricorn and Pluto is conjuncting Mercury in Capricorn. They're both very strong. And that moon in Scorpio is being reinforced by all the planets in Capricorn and trined by the planets in Pisces. And the 4 planets in Capricorn are being trined by Uranus and Taurus. You know what that adds up to? 8 planets. There's 5 planets in the earth signs, and they're all trining each other. There's another 3 planets in the water signs, and they're all trining each other. This is an excellent time for you to sort things out. It's okay to have second thoughts. You may just be reassured that you made the right choice the first time, and you're happy with that. Well, there's nothing wrong with reinforcing that right now. Checking to make sure that you've got everything where you want it. But feelings are involved as well. And the reason feelings are involved as well and that means America, because Scorpio and Pisces, the three good planets there, they trine Cancer, the sun sign of America. And so these 8 planets, the 5 in earth signs and the 3 in water signs, are quite compatible. They're all, nobody's hurting anybody in those 8 planets. They're all sort of helping each other, actually. But behind the scenes, it isn't all about business. It's about how we feel. Because the water signs have such strong planets in them. And the rulers of the water signs are strong too. So this is a time for you to really check. You know, I feel like saying, who do you love? And we all care about money. But in a disaster, in a war, in an economic downturn, we really care about who we love and who we want to take care of, or how we can help others. America is a very compassionate nation. And because America's moon is in Aquarius, and Aquarius is the sign of the humanitarian, we always are willing to help others who are down and out. So this is a time for you just to make sure that your trust is well placed. And that's what you can have second thoughts about. But that's all right. It's better to know where your strength is going into a change than to have the change happen, like fall on you, and then you try to figure it out. That's not too good. And it also would be too late. So this is a time to get real serious about your relationships and about your career and about the people at the top and whether you trust them or not. Because in one way or another, they could influence you and your livelihood and your loved ones. And our feelings are part of all of this. So what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Sorry I went on so long. Well, Aries, for you, this is a time when I think that it would pay you to be really careful, Aries. And by careful, I mean tiptoe around. And do not try to anger anybody right now. You will get clobbered. The reason why is that your ruler, Mars, is exalted in Capricorn and is squaring your sun. And so are Pluto, Mercury, and Venus, which are all in Capricorn as well. They are backed up. Uranus and Taurus is trining them. But they, by themselves, are squaring your sun sign. And so, and there aren't any planets in the fire signs. And so, Aries, I don't know if it is somewhere you've been going or who you've been hanging out with in one way or another, or socializing with, or how you've been behaving on your job, but something's wrong. And I think that there's going to be a break, some sort of break. It may not happen now, but it could. And even if it isn't happening now, it could be getting planned now. And the reason why is that Mars, your ruler, is only at 1 degree of Capricorn. So it's squaring the 1 degree in your sign. That means it's got 29 more degrees to go. All of them squaring your sign. And sometime in Mars' duration in Capricorn, there could be a break. Because it's so strong. It might be when it gets closer to Pluto. Pluto's a real slow-moving planet. All of those planets are going to conjunct Pluto and move on. But Pluto isn't moving on. It's going to be squaring your sun for years. So there is a break coming, Aries. Now, that's a good reason for you to have second thoughts right now about what you want to do or where you want to go or what the timeline is for you to achieve your goals. That second thoughts may give you a better idea or a fresh idea of how you could make a change. But the most important thing, Aries, is not to ruffle anybody's feathers right now. Because it would take very little effort on your part to make somebody else mad. And they would make you regret that. Even if you didn't mean anything quite as seriously as they took it, they would make you pay for it. So I would say that even if it looks like you were going to lose a little right now, if you could be a gracious loser with a smile on your face, that might be the best way for you to sort of ease out of something without any serious repercussions. I mean, being a graceful loser of one thing is better than getting hammered later on. So just think about it, Aries, because there's a moment of truth that's going to be coming up. And I think if you sort of wanted to skirt around that, and if you could have second thoughts and figure out a way to just ease that a little bit, that would be good for you. You know, battle is not the thing you need to get into right now. You would lose the battle. So don't get in any kind of argument. Just be gracious if you can. Okay, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, this is a time when, since Uranus has gone direct in your sign, Taurus, you could be getting this little feeling in the back of your mind that you'd like to be free right now. Uranus rules freedom. And freedom, to somebody who is a good hard worker like you, could mean retirement. Maybe you're just saying, heck, I'm going to throw in the towel and I'm going to retire. Now, even if a Taurus retires, since they have spent their whole life working, they sort of miss that. And they can even go on after and in retirement and work more on their own projects and at their own speed, but they do keep doing it. And so retirement might just mean that you've got your money coming in a different way, and that you don't have to get up early and go to work every morning. But I don't think it means that you stop working, simply because that's the way you are. So, Taurus, you can be sort of thinking of freedom right now. And you could have a tremendous amount of backup from people who are very influential. And that is because all 4 planets in Capricorn are trining your sun, which is excellent. One of them is Venus, your own ruler, but it's retrograde. You are a person that maybe has to have second thoughts about something, maybe someone you love or something that you've always wanted to do or you would love doing. You might have to examine that a little bit closer. For sure, you'd have to see if you can afford it in these days of high inflation. I mean, anybody who's got a great idea now is going to be a little poorer for it because our money isn't buying as much anymore. So budgets have to be redone. So anyway, Taurus, you've got a lot of backup because Mars is in Capricorn trining your sun, so is Venus, so is Pluto, which is conjuncting Mercury at the fateful 29th degree. So I think, Taurus, that there is some culmination coming, not exactly a climax to your career, but close. In other words, it could be that you're reaching a certain state of recognition. You could get some great recognition right now for your career efforts. But you also could have second thoughts about how long you want to keep doing the same thing. So there's nothing wrong with second thoughts right now, Taurus. The only thing that is threatening your sign at all is Saturn in Aquarius, and it's squaring that Uranus. But you can't get away from that. It's going to stay doing that all year. So you're not going to be able to speed forward quite as quickly as you would like, no matter what you want to do. But this is a very good time, particularly for you, to realize that only the best run companies or agencies would be able to make it through an economic downturn or some sort of threatening world crisis. And you're pretty sharp, Taurus. You could sort of figure out who could make it through and who couldn't. And you may need to have second thoughts about wherever you are, and you may make some adjustments. That you get a lot of backup with that. So if you're thinking of making some adjustments in your goals or in your plans or in your budget, you probably should do that. And you would get very good advice on that. So go do it. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, this is a time when you are, you still have strong backup from people who really believe in your future as well as their own, because Saturn in Aquarius is trining your sun, which is good. But your own ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is retrograde, and it's left Aquarius. It's not trining your sun like it was last week. Now it's in Capricorn, and it's actually in conjunct your sun. It's not doing you too much good right now, Gemini. And so Mercury is, your ruler, is being conjuncted by Pluto, a planet of psychological transformation and change and deep truth. And it generally denotes people at the top in organizations who have the power to make changes. And since Capricorn rules the 10th house of career, I would say that there is going to be a change in your career, Gemini. And that's because the sign of Capricorn is so loaded. It not only has your ruler in it, but Mars, which is exalted, and Pluto, both the rulers of Scorpio, and Venus as well. People are having to change their minds a little bit, and you will too, Gemini, about how you want to proceed in a changing world, particularly if there is an economic downturn or a threatening world crisis. So you have to, you haven't lost support from people, but you have to seriously reconsider, okay, so what if the rules change or the situation changes? How will that affect me? And if you are not certain of how that will affect you, and there is some sort of investment on the line or money on the line of any kind, then you really need to have some second thoughts and think things over right now. There are only 2 retrograde planets, but they're important. They're Venus and Mercury. And they're in the sign of your public reputation and of your career. And so that's what you should be thinking about. And it is possible, Gemini, that in a funny kind of a way you should aim a little higher, not go lower. Because if the world changes, if there is an economic downturn, or if there is a threatening world crisis, who would you rather be with? Your fair weather friends or people you actually trust who have a good track record? You know, the survivors. That's who you want to be with, Gemini. And if you're not a survivor, you need to learn how to do that, because changes could occur. So, and if you have second thoughts about things, but you come out, after you've had your second thoughts and you come out very satisfied with where you are, that's great. But at least you have that reassurance. At least you know a little better about where you stand and where other people stand in relation to who you trust. And we all need to check that. Make sure that we really are with people who are worthy of our trust, who have good track records and can prove it. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, this is a time when I would say you benefit greatly in a quiet way, because our feelings are involved in these second thoughts that everyone can be having. So there are feelings that can drive our thoughts, as well as just the practical situations involving our employers or our investments or our future plans and goals, or even our retirement. Those are practical matters, and you can examine somebody's track record because it's, sort of in black and white. But also, people are, since there are 3 water signs trining each other and sextiling 5 earth signs, which are all trining each other, our feelings are playing an important part in our second thoughts. Because you can only go so far on facts, and then you got to ask yourself, well, how do you feel? How do you feel about somebody? How do you feel about the situation you're in? How do you feel about time? I mean, there's 4 planets in Capricorn all oppose your sun, Cancer, and Capricorn rules time. And actually, time is the big issue. But everybody has it, right? So nobody counts it. It's like they take it for granted. We all do. But an economic downturn or a threatening world crisis, that changes how we spend our time, or who or what we spend our time on. And so, yes, just as you're thinking of practical things, I think because the moon in Scorpio is trining your sun, and so are Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces. I think in the end, and yours is a water sign, a healing water sign, I think you really are considering how you deeply feel about where you are now and who you want to be with. And having second thoughts is a good idea, because when you have second thoughts about how you feel in your relationships, it's all going to center around who you trust and who has the sort of a track record that you can put your trust in. That's important. I don't see how you can have love without trust. You have to have both of them, love and trust. And particularly in times of peril, that's what you need, the love and the trust. And also, no one has a handle on time. So, Cancer, you don't have forever, is what I'm saying. So you have to really ask yourself, how am I spending my time, and who am I spending it with, and how do I feel about that? And hopefully you will come up with some answers that sort of fit your current situation, or fit somehow into what you want to do in your life and who you want to do it with. Nothing wrong with us asking ourselves some pretty serious questions right now, because nobody knows what tomorrow will bring. And so I think that a lot of us want to gather people or institutions or beliefs that are trustworthy and strong and that we can respect. And we want to be with people we can respect. And that's not unusual. That's sort of the way life should be. So Cancer, just think over where you are. The one thing I would caution you about is that you don't have as much time as you think you do. That I'm pretty sure of. So make your time count a little bit more, Cancer. It's important. And that is why America has to uphold its highest standards. The ones that we started in the first place, we can't turn our back on them. They made this country great. And in times of trouble, they'll hold us up. They'll help us. So ask who or what is in your real heart, and go for it. because no one knows how much time they have. So it's better to make each moment count. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, this is a time when everybody's career or public reputation is somewhat at stake. And this is a time when we will be having second thoughts because that Mercury is at 29 degrees, the degree of fate, in Capricorn, which rules our careers and our public reputation. Now, Leo rules acting. And Leos rule people that like to sort of get out there and be the star, because it rules entertainment and it rules sports. Well, that's nice, that's great. It rules children and it rules love affairs, not marriage, just love affairs. Now, Leos like those too. But Leo, this is a time when there are 5 planets trining each other in the earth signs. So one does have to be practical. And then there are 3 others in the water signs, and they're all trining each other. That's 8 out of the 10 planets. And so we can be very much in touch with our feelings, and you certainly can too. But there are no planets in the fire signs. So there's actually no will to push forward right now. And instead, that's good, because this may give you a little downtime to be having second thoughts about your goals and about what you do with your time. Leos can waste their time beautifully. They know how to do that. And they enjoy that. I mean, all the fire signs, they can afford to waste a little time because they know, since they're fire signs, that if they have to really step on the gas and go fast, they can do it. They can make up for lost time. Fire signs can do that. But Leo, you know, if you're thinking that, oh, well, I'll just sort of drift along and do what I want right now and do it my way, I would say you might not have too many takers. And the reason why is that I think this is a time with so many planets in the earth signs when practical problems have to be solved, particularly if we enter an economic downturn, and also when our relationships do need further examination. And that's because your sign rules the heart, Leo. And everybody has a heart. And this is a time when we should all be examining how we feel and who we love and what we want to do. Some people who are leaders, and your sign rules leadership, some people who are leaders love leading. So to them, that's their life, to lead. Now, it could end up being a little lonely because they could be off leading all the time and missing quite a bit that's in their own backyard. Too bad. But we need leaders. It's just that what we need now is we need to know who we can trust. And we need to know who has a proven track record of accomplishment. This is not a time that it's going to do you or anybody else any good to know somebody. You know, a lot of people get promoted because they know somebody, or they get some sort of accolade because they know somebody. This is not a time when that's going to work at all. Not at all. And so, my question to you, Leo, is what have you done lately? And how is that furthering your goals? And also, are you with people you can trust? Then the other side of the question is, do people trust you? And let's hope they do. But Uranus in Taurus is squaring your sun. Saturn in Aquarius is opposing your sun. And the moon in Scorpio is also squaring your sun. There could be a lot of people who aren't sure about you, right now, Leo. And that's why you should be having second thoughts. Because, you know, it's a Leo likes their audience. They like the applause. That they're good at people pleasing. But what are you doing, Leo, that pleases you? Because it's going to get down to that for everybody. You know, are you doing things that other people respect, and do you respect yourself for that? Because if you do, everything's fine. But if there are some things that you would prefer to change in the future, this is a good time to have second thoughts. Maybe try a different direction. Now, the timing for that would be this summer. And so this is a very good time for introspection, Leo. Introspection means you are looking inside yourself. And if you're having second thoughts, it could be about what you want and where you're going and how you're getting there. Nothing wrong with that. This is a good time to be examining yourself introspectively. That way, nobody's criticizing you or anything. You're just sort of going over things yourself. And just check and see if everything you're doing pleases you. And is it generating respect among others and trust? Because that's what those planets in Capricorn are all about. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Virgo. This is a time when, oh boy, Virgo, you're just the person that's in the right place at the right time. And the reason why is, you know, yes, everybody can be having second thoughts, including you, Virgo. But the second thoughts, because there are 5 planets in earth signs and they are all trining your sun, that's half the planets in the heavens. Because the 4 planets in Capricorn and Uranus and Taurus are trining your sun. And that includes your ruler now. Your ruler, Mercury, is still retrograde, but it's in Capricorn now. It's conjuncting Pluto. You have some powerful friends, Virgo, and they like you. Now, they may ask you to do a little extra work. Ooh, you may not want to do that. On the other hand, it could be some sort of an honor, so you can't exactly get out of it, and you may have to do it, which I think you should. Virgos are very dutiful. They do their duty. And so if you are asked by very highly respectable people to sort of join their team or go along with them in what they're doing, I would say that that is a step up for you and that you should do that. And will it bring more money? I think so, eventually, in one way or another. It will also increase your career contacts, and that's always helpful, particularly in an economic downturn. It's helpful to, you know, have a broader reach of career contacts, and you can have that. The only thing you really need to worry about is the fact that Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces are opposing your sun sign. They're going to continue to do that, and that simply means that let's hope you don't have any secrets, Virgo, because secrets will come pouring out. And the only thing that I can see that would be a detriment to you right now is that if a secret came out, not about you, but about somebody that you really cared about, that maybe you had been trusting, but if the secret comes out and you find out, you know, you were sort of trusting somebody that wasn't exactly on the up and up, it could disappoint you greatly. But always better to know the truth. Because people deal with the truth much better than they do with lies. They really deal with the truth quite well. So you may learn the truth about somebody and that could really disappoint you. But on the other hand, Virgo, there really isn't a cloud on your horizon right now. And so it's up to you to make the best of everything right now. You may as well, because it looks like good things are coming your way. And as you learn the truth, you can have second thoughts and become more sincere in your own feelings. You can kind of see why you did not, why you believed a lie. But that will help you, that will sharpen you in some way and help you in your future relationships. It'll sort of help you and guide you as to what to look for in relationships. And remember, only the best companies and government agencies could survive an economic downturn. And the same goes for relationships. Only the ones that are sincere and stalwart and enduring will survive. And that's the kind you want anyway, Virgo, which is great. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Libra, this is the time when I would say that you are somewhat in the same spot, almost the same spot as Aries. There is the threat of a break. Now, I would say it's just the threat. I don't think it's very real. In other words, I don't think the break is real. The threat is real, but I don't think there is a real break coming, Libra. Even if somebody sort of moves away and goes and does their own thing, I don't think it's a permanent break. But still, you can be faced in your career with a possible break. So it's a little different in a relationship. That could have a little softer landing. But in a career, you could be sorely threatened right now because yours is a cardinal sign. And so all 4 planets in Capricorn are squaring your sun. However, Saturn in Aquarius is trining your sun. You do have some old dear friends, and you do have some almost deep pockets or people that you can count on to help you out if you need it, Libra. And these would be people you could trust because you have known them a long time. That's that Saturn trining your sun. But I think there is still a threat to your career right now. And that is because Mars is in Capricorn, squaring your sun sign. Venus, your own ruler, is there, and it's retrograde, and it's squaring your sun sign. Somebody else wants to be boss, Libra. They want to be boss. So they wouldn't mind if you moved on so they could be boss. Oh, they wouldn't even make a good boss. So don't give way to that, Libra. You just stick up for yourself. And then Pluto and Mercury are also in Capricorn, squaring your sun, which means somebody in a high up position can be very challenging right now too. I mean, it could be like the government. It could be, or an organization that isn't really listening to you at all, Libra. So what can you do? I would say that you might be having second thoughts, which I think you need to. Because I think particularly in something that involves your career, you are around people that really are not your type. Now, you may have been with them for a long time. They're still not your type. They're not going to change, and neither are you. And so they're not your type. And so you may be deciding, okay, these are not the people I can trust, or they're not meeting high standards right now that I cherish. And so you may decide to either shut down right now. It's sort of like going on vacation for a while. And then later on, perhaps in the summer, sort of opening up again and maybe going in a slightly different direction, and certainly with other people, not the same crowd. And I think you could do very well with that, Libra. But there really are some people that are just so much not your type, and for some reason, you could have just been putting up with it. But, I mean, no more. So your second thoughts could produce a new direction for you to go in. And I would say, yes, get some rest first. and then go in a new direction. You owe it to yourself. And besides, the sky's the limit. You don't know what's out there, but it could be wonderful. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, the moon is in your sign today, which is wonderful. What it means, Scorpio, is that, with Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces trining your sun, the information that can be pouring out from behind the scenes is going to certainly bring a matter of justice to a head. And you're going to benefit. And that is because there may have been, in the past, even in the last couple of years, or else way past, even 10 years or so, there could have been somebody that was deceiving you for a very long time. But they were doing it cleverly. And it could have been that they had been deceiving you from the start. And that is because they may have loved you for what you own, or who you are, or where you work, much more than caring about you as a person. In other words, some people look at others as things, and they'll say, that's a bankroll there. Oh, I'll go for that. Or, that person can connect me to other people. Well, I'll go for that. In other words, no matter what you may have wanted to share with someone, they weren't so interested in that. What they were interested in is what they could get from you. And somehow, cleverly, they did. They got a lot from you. And they're still getting what they want. But are you, Scorpio? It's really time for second thoughts here. Because you're not a commodity. No matter what you do, no matter how much money you have, no matter what your age is, no matter what is going on in your life, you are a human being. You have a heart. Generally, it's the heart we should be going for. And that is based on trust and respect. People who want things from others they don't respect those people. They see them as their prey, or I think it's called the mark. They could see you as a mark in order to grab something or get something from you. And so they are the predator, and you are the prey. And, your sign rules survival, and you can be very good at surviving. But even that can get tiring after a while. Like, why do you always have to be surviving? Maybe you should think about who you're having around you, who you share things with, who you admire and respect. It's maybe you too should aim a little higher, I think, Scorpio. And it isn't that you are looking for a mark. I think you're looking for something that you can believe in for as long as you live. And that can be in a person, because that involves respect and trust and a proven track record of achievement. So that doesn't mean you have to go through another fight for survival. It might mean that there's happiness on the way. If you have second thoughts and you're deciding to raise your sights a little bit, there's a lot of people that look good or they sound good. I would avoid those if I were you, Scorpio. You do not need somebody who's setting you up for a fall. You don't need somebody that's looking at you like their next meal. You need somebody who's just there to share with. Feelings, hearts, laughter. They say the best medicine is laughter. They also say the best medicine is sleep. So, why don't you sleep on it, Scorpio? And think a little bit more about having second thoughts about what you want, and where you're going. And maybe there can be a little less survival mode in your life and a little bit more sharing. If you find somebody who's not staking you out as a mark, you don't need that. It's called getting used. And use is something that Capricorn represents. So, be aware that some people can look at you for use. But there's a grand trine in water signs, and you're a water sign. Others are just looking at you to love. But those people are sort of rare. They're hard to find. So, don't worry. You have to decide what you want first, and then go looking for it. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, this is a time when there aren't any planets in the fire signs, okay? So I don't think you're going to jump up and do the 100-yard dash, Sagittarius. You might be traveling, and even that could become a little problematic. And that is because Neptune and Jupiter in Pisces are squaring your sun, and somebody along the way on your travels is definitely going to try to cheat you, or they're going to sell you a bill of goods that isn't true at all. Well, okay, maybe that's what happens when people travel anyway. I don't know. But you too need to have second thoughts. And I think you are having a lot of second thoughts right now, Sagittarius, and the reason why is all four of these very powerful planets in Capricorn are right ahead of your sun sign. And I think that you're one of these people that, you're just about to take the next step. You're just about to put one foot in front of the other and make a commitment, or take on a different job, or you could even retire, but it would be with the idea of doing something that you always wanted to do instead. In America, retirement doesn't really happen that much. It's that people retire so they can go do something else, and they like that, so that's fine. But Sagittarius, this is a time when I think you're feeling you getting pretty close to having to make a decision. And you're right about that. The decision could involve your career, because the four planets in Capricorn are ahead of your sun sign, and Capricorn rules the 10th house of career and your public reputation. It rules awards and honors. It rules particularly rewards earned the hard way over a long period of time, so it rules retirement. Maybe that's what you're thinking of. Even if you're young, you may be thinking of how you can start providing for retirement. It takes a long time. You just have to keep working and keep working and keep working and keep putting your money away until you retire and can enjoy it. So I don't think that this is a time when you have to burst forward and be the star of anything, Sagittarius. I think this is a time then you have to sit real quietly. And yes, you need to have second thoughts, if only to examine your motives and examine your goals. And for sure, you're going to have to examine your budget, because inflation is killing our budgets. And, you can't even go to the grocery store anymore without looking at what you want to buy and trying to decide, could you afford everything else you want if you buy these extra things? And generally now it's getting to be the answer is no, because things are too inflated. So all of us are having to sort of pull back a little bit in order to still live within our budgets. And it's just going to get more painful as time goes on until somebody ends inflation, and it won't end overnight. And if somebody doesn't start attending to it, it's just going to burst and create ruin. That is going to be an economic downturn if that happens. So somebody who has a real knowledge of economics is going to have to get us out of all this inflation. And it will not be overnight. There's too much debt and too much inflation. What a recipe for disaster. So you have a fine mind, Sagittarius. You need to think about all these things. And I really would, even no matter what your age is now, I'd put away a little more money for security. Just in case you get laid off, or just in case you decide to open your own business, you'd have a little nest egg to do that with. Maybe you need a little financial backup right now, and maybe you should be thinking about how to get that. And before you spend money now, maybe you should think of how could I save it instead, so that it'll buy a little more opportunity in the future. And the reason why you should think about that is because Jupiter is going into Aries this summer, and it will trine your sun, giving you the opportunity to make a new start. And then it'll go back in Pisces. But by the end of this December and throughout next year, it will be in Aries trining your sun. Maybe you should put away a little bit of money for better things next year, because there will be better things next year. So anyway, second thoughts are for all kinds of reasons. I'm just suggesting some of the ways that your second thoughts could get you in a little better place as time goes on. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, this is a time when your sign is so loaded, Capricorn, you could have a whole bunch of really good ideas right now. But of the 4 planets that are in your sign, and they're powerful planets, 2 of them are retrograde, which means you're quite capable of changing your mind about something. Even an idea that you'd had for a very long time, you're quite capable of changing your mind. And that's because Mercury is at the 29th degree of fate in your sign, and Pluto, that planet of deep truth and psychological transformation and change, is conjuncting it. Pluto's at 28 degrees, Mercury's at 29. But also in that sign are Venus, which is retrograde, meaning that, a reassessment of some sort of relationship is possible for you right now. You could be thinking about it. And there is the possibility that in a relationship there is a change coming. It's either on your part or it's on the other person's part. It would tend to be a very good change, though. I mean, it's Venus that's retrograde. That's not so bad. And then Mars is exalted in your sign. But Mars really means business. And Pluto is in your sign as well. And these 2 planets are the rulers of Scorpio, where the moon is today, sextiling your sun. And Jupiter and Neptune in Pisces are also sextiling your sun. It seems to me, Capricorn, and Uranus and Taurus is trining your sun. All 8 of these planets, the 5 in earth signs and the 3 in water signs, are all compatible with your sun sign right now. And it just seems to me that if you had second thoughts about something right now, they would lead to better things. Maybe you could be saying something like, well, gee, I don't need to be keeping this or keeping that or doing this. Or I don't need to be so busy. Or I'd like to change what I'm doing and try something different. In other words, no matter what your second thoughts are about, I think that they can be practical, they can be very doable, they can involve deepening your own feelings and your relationships. I don't think your relationships are being threatened. It's just a good time to re-examine them. And it might be that you feel you haven't changed, but somebody else has for one reason or another. But that's all right. Maybe they're growing. Maybe that's good. Capricorns do not push themselves on people. They could see something that another person is struggling with, but they don't push themselves on that person. Or they don't assume they have the answers and the person is supposed to listen to them all the time. Instead, they sort of stand by. Capricorns are very faithful. They stand by. And I think that you've been standing by for a while, and a friend or a loved one is changing. And they're, no matter what their age is, it seems that they're growing. And I think that you would be happy about that. It might be they're taking on more responsibility, and Capricorns take on responsibility. They're good at that. So you might be happy for somebody else who's finally deciding to take on some responsibility. That would be great. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is a time with Saturn in your sign squaring that Uranus in Taurus, and now Uranus is direct. It simply means that there can be a fluctuation or a change in the value of your investments, or in the value of something that you own. And generally, Taurus rules high-priced things. And remember, what I said is there's a lot at stake right now, because only the best-run companies or the best-run agencies could make it through, because of their steady track record, which they've already proven they've got, could make it through an economic downturn or a threatening world crisis. And that's important for you to know, because your sign rules the future. And so that is my somewhat backward way of saying it looks like the future can be changing. And I think it's that the conditions are changing now. And so we have to be a little bit more sure of who we love and what we're doing. And if we have things sort of securely tied down that we are really fond of and that we really love. That includes our relationships, but it also includes the things we treasure. Even if you were somebody that just likes to read, then you would treasure your books. And this is a time when you need to be sort of careful to make sure that you're taking care of the things you really care about. So you could have second thoughts about what you really care about. Maybe that's changed. Maybe you don't care about so many things. Maybe you only want to concentrate on a few things or on a few relationships. Maybe your social life is changing because of that. Or maybe your health condition is changing. But you see, the moon in Scorpio is squaring your sun, and Uranus in Taurus is also squaring your sun. Those are two fixed financial signs. So it looks to me, Aquarius, as if there is some sort of a challenge to your financial position. And I don't think it has to do with, your grocery store budget or anything like that. I think it has something more to do with like a retirement plan or a pension plan or your job status somehow. There's something bigger going on. And so you need to be real careful. I would not be spending money right now, Aquarius. I think you can sort of make do without spending money right now. So if I were you, I would conserve my funds. Just because you aren't too sure about what the rest of the world is doing, so you should sort of keep your hands on what's yours if you can. Just think about that. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Pisces, This is a time when you can be feeling pretty good, Pisces. And the reason why is that the moon in Scorpio is trining Neptune and Jupiter in your sign. And Scorpio's rulers are in Capricorn. They're Mars and Pluto, and they're sextiling your sun. And so are Venus and Mercury in Capricorn. And they are, those 4 planets in Capricorn, besides sextiling your sun and the moon in Scorpio trining your sun, those 4 planets are all being trined by Uranus in Taurus, which is also sextiling your sun. So, Pisces, you are in what I would call a golden moment. I hope you enjoy it. I don't know how long it's going to last. But I think that this is a time when if you were having second thoughts, they sure would be the right ones. You know, it's almost as if finally some cloud or some veil has lifted, or some misty fog has lifted from your eyes or from your view, and you can see very, very clearly what makes your heart happy or who makes your heart happy, and you can see something very positive that represents opportunity in your career or in your public reputation, which can be improving, or in some sort of track record that you are achieving. It takes a very long time to build a track record. It takes years to do that. But you may have built one. You may be considering taking a higher step in your career, and you really can't do that without a good track record. But it looks to me like you do have a good track record, or at least you've even if you are a younger Pisces, you have assumed enough responsibility somehow and upheld it to prove that you're worth more trust. And that's good. So justice can be done. It may be done in your favor, Pisces. And it also means there can be some more money coming your way. But for a good cause or for a good reason. Something sort of provable. People can say, oh, but you accomplished this. And that would be good. So it's very important for you to realize that having a few friends you can really trust can be life-saving and assure your survival. And hanging out with a crowd that you are not very certain of is actually a waste of your valuable time. You know, just because you get along with everybody doesn't mean you have to waste all your time on them. Sooner or later we have to get real serious about our careers and our retirement. The reason why is time marches on. It doesn't wait for anybody. You're going to get older at the same rate that everybody else is. But what will you have to show for it? And that's what you've got to really be thinking about right now. You might be able to plan your time so that you are more serious about something. And showing your serious intent actually could generate more money for you and could increase your public reputation based on a very good track record. So congratulations. All right, thanks so much for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show and read our blog on our website, starborninstitute.org, or if you'd like to see the show, I can send that to you if you subscribe to my Karen Campbell YouTube channel, and I'll send it to you every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Thanks a lot. Bye.